Yo, back for another video, back for another one. So drop another like, comment, and subscribe and all that good stuff. But let's get into it. The topic of this video is basically gonna be about the record label industry. The record label industry and the music industry in general. Now, I'm probably gonna do a series on this. Would be nice to see a series on this and see more detail about these companies and these people who work behind the scenes because we often look at the music industry, or when we get the music industry, we often focus on the artist and the music. We focus on the artist and music, and we forget about the people that's behind the scenes. So, how I started off, kind of got into this, these past few days. I was watching Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky. Go check out Noam Chomsky. He wrote a lot of different books. He's a very famous psychologist and a very influential social commentator. And he wrote a lot of books about how propaganda is used, how propaganda is used by the media to control the people, right? They got propaganda and they use this propaganda to control the people. How? Well, the media industry has become an institution. It's become an institution. So, institutions are the bedrock of the culture. The institutions are the bedrocks of the culture. All right. And when we look particularly at the black community, we see that the music industry is perhaps the most influential culture, especially around young people. Probably the most, I mean, not the most influential culture, the most influential institution. One of the most influential institutions, especially around young people. If you anywhere between 2 and motherfucking 50, about 50 now, 50, mid 50s, chances are you were probably indoctrinated with the propaganda through the music industry and the television. Mind you, these are institutions. They're bigger than just entertainment. These are institutions. And what Noam Chomsky was saying was ultimately, he was saying that ultimately, these corporations, these music, these that produce the music, the movies, the television, they're owned by a relatively few amount of people, or not even people. It's actually groups and investment groups, so they a little bit more, it's layers to it. Interestingly, I want to talk about this. I'm gonna get into that in a minute. Let's go back. So interestingly, it's a relatively small amount of people who own these media corporations that are harmful to black people. The media industry literally creates the culture, has been creating the culture. Like, you can't talk about black culture without talking about the music. But if the music, we look at the music and we focus on the artist and we take it as authenticity. we buy into the artist. We relate to the artist on many levels. So we forget to see that it's other people that's working behind the artist. These people are handpicked. Like they're not. It's just that they have so much talent that they just had to make it. Like Ti has so much talent that he can't help but blow up. No, it's people that's behind the scenes. It's a company. Ti is a brand. It's companies that's creating brands. That's these artists that are highly influential. It's very well designed, very well put together. It's a lot of people going on behind the scenes. So, but okay, so we're looking at this screen. We're talking about. I was looking at this article. The three big record labels are Sony, Universal, and Warner Music Groups. Now, these three labels, they got a lot of sub labels under them. A lot of times when we talk about all Lil Durk got OTF, OTF is fucking around and owned under Def Jam, which is under Universal, which is owned by some private interest groups or whatever. Not a private interest, but private groups who might have private interests. It's not the best for the public. So I was looking through these, did a little bit of research on these companies because we got to understand they're companies and they're pushing a product. They're companies and they pushing a product just like Apple putting out the new phone, iPhone. You know, they ain't no different than Kellogg putting out a new cereal. You know, so we need to begin to look at these rappers and and music and entertainers and athletes as that a product, a brand. We need to recognize that we need to recognize these companies and begin to understand who these people are. Okay, so I begin to, pull up some stuff about these companies. Warner Music Group. Okay, look that up. But these are the lists of a lot of the private companies that own Warner Music Group, right? So of course they always gonna have an agenda. It's always who's setting the tone, like who gets the final say, and why is it that African American or black music? It has a certain tone to it. Like we're gonna go through some of the repertoires and kind of see who they promoting. Who are they promoting? What type of images? What's the subtext? Like what are they? What is the message that they're trying to get through? Where's the propaganda? So these are some of the private investment groups that own Warner Music Group. Interestingly, I want to put Rockefeller. Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan. That kind of somewhat ties into the a lot of conspiracy theories. But here's one conspiracy theory for you. All right, back in the day, back in the '60s, the gangs of Chicago were kind of cleaning up their act a little bit. They cleaned up their act a little bit, and they was able to get some private funding from certain groups, like for instance the Stones. They got over $1 million in grants from the federal government. Interestingly, the Rockefeller Foundation, I don't know how much, but they donated to the Vice Lords, CVL. All right. Even more interestingly, though, is the fact that in cases like the Stones, Jeff Ford and them, they ended up getting caught up for misappropriating the funds, buying guns and drugs with 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 the funds that they were given through these grants. So it's really kind of ridiculous because at the end of the day, it's like, what the fuck did they expect him to really do with the money? They knew that was gonna happen, And even more interestingly than all that, even more interestingly than all that, is uh, around this time, a couple years in, they funded the vice lords. A lot of private, they funded them. They had capital, so of course they bought guns and stuff like that because that's just, But the murder rate goes up. The murder rate goes up. After the 60s, the murder rate up went a lot, partially because you had these private investment groups and even the federal government subsidizing, subsid- almost literally subsidizing crime on the south side of the south side of Chicago, on the west side of Chicago too. So that's very interesting right there. So why do we have Rockefeller partially owning Warner Music Group and a lot of other groups too? So let's go look at Warner Music Group right quick because under Warner Music Group, it's a lot of smaller record labels. Even though they like big record labels like Atlantic or Asylum, you got your Boosie, your Webby, your Gucci Band. Who's that ugly guy? You also got a lot of people out of Texas like Bun B. I'm guessing UGK maybe might have been on here. I think Rap a lot affiliated. So you got a lot of these coming up. These Rap a lot. So see, we get focused on the Rap a lot. Webby, Trill Entertainment, but we forget Warner Music Group is they boss. Like they hand select people. I'm pretty sure like these people just not brought in because they just so damn talented. Like no, it's a definitely believe it's business at the end of the day. Business moves strategically. It's just not, based off of a whim or a way. It's strategic. All right. So in Atlantic, we got like Cardi B, Ti. I know Ti on here. I think Gucci on Young Boy, Two G's. Is Ariana Grande? No, I don't think Ariana Grande on there. Um, see, I think Ti's on Atlantic. Travis Scott might be on there too. Universal got a lot of people on their shit. That's really all your Def Jam, all that. They got a lot of other shit on there too. But you'll be surprised. Basically, practically almost all your favorite artists is connected to one of the three of these labels. So they just pawns, in this game. The artists, they just pawns. The artists even tell you, the record label will pimp them out, use their music, sell their music and exploit them for maybe good 2 to 5 years and then get rid of them. Um, so interestingly, we go to Universal Music um, website and they talk about social responsibility. Uh, really interesting. Universal Music Group, big names: Ariana Grande, Bob Marley, Lady Gaga, Stevie Wonder. That's Motown. All that Migos, all that under Cash Money, all that Universal Music Group. Um, Now I'm gonna do some videos looking more at the people behind the scenes. All right, and what's going on behind the scenes. Because it's important to understand this because at the end of the day, we have to question these groups because on one end, when you really look at it, they've been financing crime in the black community. These private interest groups and corporate America has been financing crime in the community for decades. I just told you about how they gave funding to certain gangs in Chicago. Now, when we dealing with these record labels, right? They have people on these record labels who openly claim to be gang affiliated, right? They openly claim to be gang affiliated. They giving these people millions of dollars. Now, for some people, maybe they cap, they not out here in the streets moving like that. That's just how, what they rap about. But for the people who have actually shown, like, yeah, we still on that bullshit, like we are doing shit like that's potentially be causing harm to other people, or even gang activity, such as, for instance, we got fucking 6ix9ine or Snitch 9, whatever you want to call him. This man was openly out and about claiming blood, but yet he was getting millions of dollars. Funded it. I mean, it was openly gang affiliated. Like the gang owned the record label. So come to find out, 6 months later or a year or two in, that they was doing all this shit and racketeering. Now they in the feds. Even the same thing with Bobby Shmurda. He was getting, or I don't know if he was signed or not, but a lot of times, yeah, they getting some money. Uh, Even with Ti, look at Ti's situation back in the day when Ti got caught with all them guns. So you got Ti literally being funded. I mean, where are those guns going to? I'm pretty sure he ain't stacking them on the shelf and just looking at them. I mean, them guns is probably going to the streets. So some of these rappers is probably on some level, I'm definitely sure, is still like funneling drugs and guns into the community. Now, I'm not going on a conservative bend with this, but at the same time, it's a fucked up situation because you know you have that all this is, they're funneling this money to these people and they bringing it back to the community and doing this shit. Then you got the politicians, who make the laws and set, harsh punishments on people, and it really just gets people caught up in a cycle, and it's really just so like this music shit is really a trap. I mean, we got the trap music, but as an institution, we need to seriously consider, our consumption of music, and we need to for real, we need to boycott these motherfuckers because they own our culture. Like we don't have the influence, that we need in order to create, community that we want for us. You feel me? So yeah, we're gonna do a series on these, on the Universal, on the Sony, and it's also important to look at the film, the film, the film and on television show too. So yeah, we got that coming though.